I think one of the ultimate issues is the balance between will to power and the confines of natural law. For example, there's a great will to power among humans to eat or consume or do whatever it is that gives them pleasure. I see that in me. I would imagine all humans would see that in themselves to some degree or another. Whatever gives you feelings of pleasure and physical fulfillment can be very powerful things. Whether this is consuming unhealthy junk food and fast food or practicing things that bring satisfaction through either physical stimulations or that then themselves induce mental or natural stimulants produced in their bodies, or whether it's actually taking in artificial stimulants such as drugs of whatever kind. It's very hard to find where any untempered application of fulfilling these urges is ever really beneficial on a net level, either to individuals or to societies as a whole. It's kind of ironic when you think about it that it kind of goes along with a Freudian worldview, that being namely that our human desires tend to draw us towards death. But of course humankind has gone on for quite a long time, and with a great many of these passions relatively unbridled, so there's some leeway there, obviously. But this brings to my mind the fact that people have been saying for centuries that our population would soon outflank the resources for our world. Many times these projections are based on a view in which resource demand per person were expected to remain either static or would increase, along with the assumption that our capacity to procure resources and utilize them would remain largely static. But these are assumptions that so far have constantly been demonstrated to be incorrect or to be irrelevant. We come up with faster, more effective, more efficient production. Our economies of scale and the market's innovation being connected with its overall size means that as innovations increase at a faster rate, the population expands. The population expanding increases the rate of innovation, and so on. There are just so many things that create feedback loops, and a significant part of our capacity to innovate at such fast rates ties into these kind of feedback loops. And so both these realities and history itself argue against your assertion that we can compensate for a reduced population with just technological enhancements and things, your warfare example. Now think about the complexities that need to exist in a society to support things like advanced weapon systems. You glance at a nation like Saudi Arabia, and it kind of demonstrates the futility of having all the technology and money that you could need without having a sufficient population and base to support it such on any level approaching an independent level. They have the most modern war machines they can buy with money, and they have cash to keep them maintained and at the ready. They have a police state that employs half of their citizenry, and they're still scared to death of losing a conflict of any significant kind because they just don't have a population, especially compared to both neighbors and other powers throughout the world. And they even have a quarter of their populace as immigrants. So the moment a population stops growing, the resources and efforts need to be channeled then to from many areas to compensating for inherent diminishing in workforce size and in economic output. Instead of focusing on novelties and innovation, you have to focus simply in maintaining production levels with a smaller workforce. So rather than being able to focus on technologies like that, technologies that will either provide, say, enhanced reproductive capacity or increasing longevity of life, or capacity to wage war, you end up focusing on simply maintaining the status quo, how to produce more with less labor, so that you stay static or your production drops as little as possible. Now, it really does seem to come down into that boundary between will and desire and the limitations of natural law. Certainly we can dull edges with technological advancements, with societal constructs for a time, but it's sustainability that is the only thing that can determine the fitness ultimately. So we can have things that will work out just fine at the moment, but in the long run, it's not simply maintaining the status quo, but it's the capacity to affect generations after that determines the fitness of these setups presently. So you are correct that I can't demonstrably prove that the promotion of homosexuality or the alteration of the constructs of the family and traditional family will destroy or utterly decimate society or civilization. I give you that. But neither can anyone demonstrably prove that global warming will completely destroy society, or even that it's primarily caused by humans. We obviously have some role because we're on the planet, but so I think I'm just presenting this to present what I see as certain similarities in the degree to which things can to which things are tied. But now, an example with global warming, over the last century, the sea levels have risen to the same degree that they're projected to over the next century with global warming. Yet if you look at the history of the world, those things that stand out over the past century aren't rising ocean water levels. It's world wars, it's Great Depression, things of that nature. So you say that the needs in face of what you present as inevitable evolution in terms of gender and societal structure changes are things that merely need to be approached with an open mind and a determination to change, just to make things work. Why is it that this is applicable to removing or rendering fluid, irrelevant, or vestigial trait distinction, such as gender, that's not only the norm amongst humans, but seems to have gained significant dominance throughout the history of all evolution? Again, namely sexual reproduction, and the reality of different genders as being a key component for much of the more complex forms of life and intelligence on the planet. History and logic seem to counter this, at least in my perception. So we're to spearhead the usurpation and complete turning on head of gender, and then just hope that an open mind and a determination to make things work will make it all happen. We don't touch human behavioral tendencies with societal constructs, because that's pushing square pegs into round holes. But can you imagine such a refutation if it came to human behavior with regard to the environment, with regard to natural urges to, say, to be violent or to voraciously consume? Again, it's this balance between what role our wills play and what role natural boundaries play. Now, it would be rather irresponsible of me to liken your proposed solution, that of having an open mind and the determination to make things work, to things like global warming, if I didn't present some potential reasons for concern.